Next, we have the blueprint update. Mr. Sampson? Dr. Sampson.
Good afternoon, President White, Dr. Townsend, members of the Board of Education. My name is Joe Sampson III, coordinator of Maryland Leads Grant and Blueprint for Maryland's Future. And with me,
Carrie Akins, principal at the Career and Technology Academy.
so our agenda today will cover our implementation plan status for March and for May, talking more about our upcoming May submission, and then Mrs. Akins will provide a career advising update. So since my last update, our team successfully submitted our March implementation plan on March 15th, 2024. You may remember that the requirements for this were to be a 10-page narrative, which was a system-wide response, to give an overview of our plans and indicate what we're currently experiencing success in, as well as the things that we're experiencing challenges with. Our narrative had 5 major points of emphasis and challenges that were recognized: core instruction, building teachers and leaders, multi-tiered systems of support, pre-K expansion, and college and career readiness pathways. As you can see from this slide, which is actually a snapshot of one of the pages in our response, we listed 5 priorities, with 3 of them designed to create system transformational change, which not only mention things that we're currently doing and progress associated with each, but also any challenges associated with a given priority. This also shows whether the change is systemic, indicating gradual changes designed to fundamentally affect our school system over time. In addition, this graphic shows whether the priority is connected to a specific pillar or multiple pillars. Of the 5 priorities listed, I'll talk a little bit about 2 of those listed as systemic changes. And the first one is priority 1, which is linked to improving instruction and high-quality materials. An example of things that we're doing include our focus and training around Tier 1 instruction and universal design for learning, as well as our focus on the science of reading and language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling, which is otherwise known as LETRS training, provided to staff to enhance instruction in English language arts in our elementary schools. Priority 2 is also a systemic change to build strong teachers and leaders in CCPS. Evidence of this is shown through our development of a leadership academy to grow our teacher leaders and administrators for future opportunities as we look toward the development of our career ladder and how that intertwines. You'll notice our challenges listed relate to restructuring of the school day to allow for more collaborative planning for teachers, shifting mindsets away from the status quo and typical approaches to doing business, and providing teachers with additional training and resources to elevate our success in the classroom. And the obvious financial challenges associated with implementing the blueprint requirements over the next 8 years was also highlighted in our response. So next steps, MSDE and AIB are working together to review district submitted plans and will provide us feedback by April 25th on phase 1 that was submitted in March. According to the AIB, feedback provided on those plans will not require us to make changes to our phase 2 plans that are currently in progress. Additionally, the phase 1 narrative is posted on the CCPS website on the blueprint page, and is also posted on the AIB's website. So again, our team is currently working toward completing phase 2 for the submission due in May. We expect to have a draft ready for our steering committee to review within the next week or so, and we also expect to get feedback from members of our Calvert County Blueprint Committee members. So talking about the phase 2 plan response requirements, the 2024 plan requirements indicate that it must be no more than 99 pages in length, in addition to the length of the questions provided. The questions provided totaled 15 pages, so the length allowed for final submitted plans is 114 pages. On this slide, you'll see an example of one of the questions, and these questions are aligned to each pillar. I mentioned the 15 pages of questions, and so you'll see here, they pertain to categories like the one that I listed, that's listed at the top of this example, access to high quality and full day pre-K. The blue box at the top, specific questions from last year's plan, and uses a resource to aid in setting context as we write the new plan. We're asked with responding to the 2 questions listed at the bottom of this slide, indicating progress of planned and anticipated activities related to each strategy, and how we're adapting plans based on the challenges faced, and identifying strategies that are not working and how and why we will make adjustments. MSDE also provided us with data that allows us to determine progress identified by each blueprint outcome. So once this plan is submitted in May and we receive feedback on it, we're required to then periodically make adjustments and updates as opposed to writing an entirely new plan every year.
Wait, can I ask a question real quick? The phase 2, are you supposed to be able to talk about how we are meaningfully changing the structure of the school day?
Yes. Well, it's not, those are things that we've decided as far as transformational change that we're going to address over the next 3 years. And so the goal is for us to identify how we are systemically going to do that. Yes.
Okay. Okay, and then my last question on your part is, why in the heck is there not a challenge under pre-K? It doesn't, you don't show anything. Yes, there's a challenge there.
Right. So we listed challenges for each of the priorities, but on the plan that's required, we went more in detail for some of those challenges. There's a challenge listed for each aspect, but some just go into greater detail.
Okay, good evening. I'm going to summarize a lot. So the timing of this presentation regarding updates about career advising coincides with, we recently had a meeting with members of AIB and our partner organizations in career advising work, Tri-County Council and CSM, and it's just kind of a check-in of where we were and also a little bit of technical assistance if we needed it, and just to share that the feedback that we got from them as far as what we're doing with career advising was exceptional, that we're really doing some really great things and feeling very good about that. So a lot of this is information I shared directly with them, so I will not read it verbatim to you, but just to give you a couple of quick highlights of kind of the biggest great things that we have done so far this year in career advising. We set the goal to make sure that our career advisors had the opportunity to meet this year with every 6th and 9th grade student to provide individualized, remember we've talked before that that's not the same as individual, but individualized career advising services. And so we are on track to meet that goal this year. Next year, that goal will expand to all students, and I'll talk about that briefly in a moment. We've really had a lot of great success with everyone buying in and being involved. Members of the board, our business community, staff members, administrators, specialists, everyone has really been eager to be involved in this, and that's really great. And really the biggest thing that I think I'm most excited about is that we have taken this approach that moves us from transformational or from transactional work, right? So we've done great things for a long time. We've had career fairs and we've had visits to CTA. Those are all great things. And nothing we're doing now in career advising should ever take away from those things. But what we're bringing to the table now is the transformational addition to those. So for example, in the past, if you had a career fair, student attended the career fair, maybe talked to some people, that's great. That's a good experience. What the career advisors are bringing to the table now is after that, now they have the opportunity to sit down and talk about, okay, well, what did you see? What do you think about that? Now let's talk about how you can make that into a plan. And so that's really what we're excited about. We are going to collect some data this year that we will, this year is just kind of about building a baseline. And this is in accordance with what we know so far from AIB, things that they might eventually ask us to report on. We're going to talk about our career advisors meeting with broad classes of students and then kind of breaking that down from there. So kind of like from whole class presentations to small group presentations to individual presentations. We've done a lot of field trips this year, a lot more than we have in the past. We've had opportunities to take kids to just various different kinds of experiences, which has been great. Guest speakers that have been able to play a more active role in schools. And we'll take a look at our enrollment data in our post-CCR pathways to just see what impact career advisors are having in helping students know what their options are and make those decisions. So lots of things we want to do in the future to continue to expand. A lot of that has to do with continuing out the training. The RIASEC training, I know that all of you had the opportunity to participate in, and thank you for that. But that basic framework of language that we're using to build our career advising program. So we're going to look forward to continuing to expand that so that everyone has seen that, and that includes all of our staff and parents and just everyone. We're hoping to start reaching out and doing some things with the elementary staff. The career advisors are at the 6th through 12 level, but we know that there's some things we can do together working with our students at the elementary level as well. Expanding those career fair opportunities, field trips, and things like that. And then finally, looking forward to how we can find ways to embed that RIASEC framework language into what we do instructionally. Things that are continued considerations and things we'll have to look at for our continued growth. We are, again, the phase-in, right? So this year we chose 6th and 9th grade because that was a straightforward starting point for us. But then to phase that in over the 3 years of middle school and 4 years, and what does that look like? Creating some better data tracking tools, right? Right now there's a lot of Excel spreadsheets that the career advisors are using, so we know we can do better than that, but we're just starting out. And then just continuing to strengthen our partnerships with Tri-County Council and CSM as well. And then finally, just things that are on the radars, things that are potential challenges that, you know, we'll have to kind of keep our eye on and determine what challenges they do pose and how we'll address them. And the toughest one is time, right? Because we're adding something to the experience for students, and it inevitably takes place during the school day. And so how do we do that in a way that both allows for a robust experience in career advising without taking away from instructional time for students? And that's a delicate balance. So we'll continue to look at that. We'll have to continue to monitor the capacity with having just one advisor in each school. Obviously, some buildings, that's an easier task than it is at, say, Northern High School, right? And then continuing to look at everyone's favorite word, funding for transportation for things like student activities and field trips. That's all I have. Questions?
I had a question on funding. Is the Tri-County Council providing any assistance in things like, you know, paying for speakers or arranging for speakers or field trips or anything? What do they bring to the table for us?
So when we developed the MOU and created a budget that was agreed upon with Tri-County Council, we delineated funds that were going directly to them, and some of those things they are taking care of. And then the funds that remain in our accounts, we've allocated to certain activities. Did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, and so as we're moving forward, you know, obviously when we wrote that initial MOU, we didn't really have a great idea of exactly what things we might want to look at, right? And now that we do, we're already in those talks with Tri-County Council about, you know, updating the MOU now that we just know more, right? So we might look at ways that we want to just kind of redefine or reallocate like parts that are going directly to Tri-County Council in terms of that piece of funding, or whether they're staying with us. And those are conversations we'll just continue to have with Tri-County Council.
I hope they are bringing some value added to us out in the business world. Is that correct?
Yeah, so our partners at Tri-County Council have been obviously very important to this process. That was the whole idea in the setup of how this worked in the blueprint, right? They are the experts in that space, and they certainly have helped to connect us to just a variety of different things.
All right, this is a futuristic question. I've seen things where, like, you can actually practice a medical procedure virtually. Are we there yet?
I'm glad you asked that question, Ms. Grannis. We have some, through Tri-County Council, actually prior to this happening, they wrote a grant through which we got some virtual reality headsets. So we have 6 of those now, and then through some different grant funding that I had available through CTE, we actually just got some more. So they're really neat. It's virtual reality, right, with the headsets, and loaded in that is career exploration opportunities. So like you can virtually change the oil in a car and weld and all different kinds of simulations like that. A couple of years ago, we got a similar system that's specific to firefighting that we are able to share with students sometimes. So yeah, so we are kind of there. We also did just get a simulation model like that also in the Academy Health program at CTA. So yes, I think that future is here.
Thank you.
Sorry. You know what? I too have something for you. Look at this. Yeah, I'm going to need like, I don't know, $6 million probably. No, speaking of funding, but kind of similar to what Lisa was talking about and some of the virtual reality things that, so I figure, you know what, 5, CTA and 5 or 4 high schools, it's, $500,000, it's fine. But they have some really awesome things that I wanted to share. So whomever is interested, I'm going to leave these with Ms. Maxey. But they have some really cool products that kind of go along with those same lines.
I have just a couple of questions. So first of all, going back to slide 4, you don't have to click. It was the chart with the priorities and the challenges. Ms. Walensky asked a question regarding the Priority 2 challenge, and I was just wondering, it's regarding the strategical and meaningful changing of the structure of the school day. I was wondering if the struggle was determining what that change looks like, or if it's implementing that change.
We have some ideas of what the change could look like, but the issue is implementing the change for various reasons. The requirement is to actually implement that change over the next 8 years. And so we gradually phase that in. However, we're still trying to have some forward thinking to determine how we're going to approach that in a meaningful way and not say we're going to provide 5 more minutes of collaborative time for teachers each year. So it's a little difficult for us to develop that, but it is something that we're working on.
Okay, fantastic. And then going into the career advisor section, you were discussing the continued considerations and grows. So the first bullet point, and this is slide 12, is discussing to continue to plan to phase in for the program across all grade levels. And I was just wondering how manageable for the career advisors was meeting with all of the 9th grade or the 6th graders.
Yeah, so kind of the first level of what the career advisors are doing is the way that we've shaped the program is that the first thing that we recognize students need to have is that introduction to RIASEC, right, that you've seen. And so this year, that was everybody because nobody had seen it before, right? But next year, the kids who have currently been in 6th grade, 9th grade will have already had that. So the career advisors will kind of be starting at a different point with them next year, right? So that's what I mean when I say like kind of a phase in over time, like it'll change a little bit as those kids come through. It'll look, what we're doing this year, next year, the year after with 9th graders will look different once this year's 6th graders get to 9th grade and they've had 3 years of that experience. As far as managing the load, it's a concern, but that's also kind of intentionally where we're building the program around this idea of kind of building capacity in all of the people that are working with students, right? Because there's opportunities across the school day, across experiences for people to have meaningful career-guided conversations with students, right? If we're all speaking the same language, that could really benefit kids, right? So if a teacher in an engineering class is doing a lesson and has an opportunity to talk about careers in engineering, right? They are doing part, and then that way the career advisor can pick up on the rest of it. So they're not kind of starting from scratch when they sit the kid down in front of them.
So in order to make this more manageable, and I was thinking about this when I was looking at it, and I was like, how in the world are they going to meet with all of these students? Have we looked into targeting this RIASEC training to teachers of CTE pathways within the high schools and middle schools?
They actually just had, so on the last professional development day, yes, all the teachers in the CTE programs in the home high schools just had that training. The teachers at CTA actually saw it early on in the school year. So yes.
Fantastic, thank you.
Under the district priorities, priority number 5 was continuing and expanding college and career pathways. That was not listed as a systematic challenge or a change or a challenge. Why is that?
Well, again, some things on this graphic might not necessarily specifically show that a challenge is highlighted here, but for every priority that we listed, there were challenges associated with it that were embedded in our narrative. So we spoke to the challenges that are associated with that. We just didn't list that as one that we're highlighting for our primary areas of focus for the purpose of that response.
Okay. I just want to say thank you. Every time you bring the blueprint, I feel more informed. You do a great job keeping us updated on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.